Hello, I'm now Bahari Mamova reporting for the Voice of America, and today we're in the Longworth U.S. House building, here to have a very candid conversation with Congressman Trent Kelly, who proudly represents the state of Mississippi,
yes,
which has a very special relationship with Uzbekistan. So I'm here to talk about Uzbekistan, Congressman Kelly.
Oh yes, and you know it's one of my favorite subjects, and both on the military partnership. You know, I just spoke with our governor 3 days ago about his visit again to Uzbekistan, and so I think there's a lot of similarities between Uzbekistan and Mississippi.
How did this special relationship between Uzbekistan and Mississippi start? We know that you've been in the House since 2015, right? But you seem to know the country well. You seem to bond with Uzbekistan very closely. So how did that happen?
I think sometimes you just wind up around the people you're supposed to be around. But you know, we've had a state partnership program with our Mississippi National Guard, which I'm a member, for many, many years. But I went over in a congressional delegation at the OSCE in 2016, and met with the president, who then was prime minister then. Well, no, I met with the prime minister who's now president, Mirziyoyev. Did I say that right?
Mirziyoyev.
Mirziyoyev.
Yeah, Mirziyoyev.
Yeah, it's, you know, and we were talking earlier. We have these short Irish names in Mississippi.
I know, but he knows your name very well.
He does, and so, but it's so funny. He was prime minister then, and I met, and then he ascended to the presidency, and he just did such a great job. But I think that first meeting, which had Senator Safayev was there, and I think at the time maybe he was an ambassador or maybe a foreign minister. Foreign Minister Kamilov. What a great guy! And so I've just become friends. But it was just a chance meeting. We were at this meeting, and I walked by the table and said, "Hey, we have a state partnership, and I'd really like to talk to you guys." The entire delegation walked out, and we talked, and we started that friendship, planted that little small seed of friendship, which has become so big. And then
so it boils down to personal connections. You have to connect as people, as individuals, and that is something that the U.S. government has been trying to do, to connect with the people, like people-to-people relationship. Yes. That's something that we hear a lot from the State Department. How much do the ordinary Mississippians know about Uzbekistan?
You know, they're learning. That's what, and that's part of the Uzbek. There's so many things I can talk about because I'm so excited. But I took the first Codel over there, and we took 7 other members, so 8 total members of the House of Representatives. I think the largest Codel, at least in many years, to Uzbekistan. And we started exposing members of Congress. We talk about it. I talk about it at home all the time. And so, our governor just got back from over there. Our director of economic development for the state. The Minister of Defense was recently in Mississippi. So we continue to have exchanges. Not just at the military level, but we've turned it into also economic and state level. So we've developed it and expanded so many things, and it goes back to those relationships.
I want to ask you about your priorities later, but you played a key role in the formation of the Uzbekistan Caucus.
Yes.
Now, what is the goal of it?
The goal is to improve relationships between the United States and Uzbekistan, to make members here in the House of Representatives very aware of what's going on in Uzbekistan. Quite frankly, most people couldn't have pointed to Uzbekistan on a map 10 years ago. But now
Even
here, but now people know where it is. And that's part of it, is to educate and then to show what great strides they have made. Whether we're talking about religious freedoms or human rights in the workplace and the cotton fields. We've just our release of political prisoners, just so many great things. And Uzbekistan was very closed prior in the last 5 or 6 years, and now they're very open. They're a regional leader. They're a regional partner. They're a worldwide partner. The president visited with our Secretary of Defense here, also our president. He visited with me and Senator Hatch and several other people. It is great to have those exchanges. We've just got to continue, and that's the purpose of the caucus, is to grow the exposure of Uzbekistan and to do. We just introduced Vicente Gonzalez, who is the co-chair with me from Texas. We're introducing a resolution today that deals with Uzbekistan and what they've done and recognizing their independence.
So it's a bipartisan body, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and that's basically a consultation circle, like a network of
yes.
Members of House who are focusing on the region and who want to have that exchange basically between them. We have had several members of Congress over the years who've been very critical of the situation in Uzbekistan, of the policies in place in Uzbekistan, and I'm sure you hear from them too, right?
We do, and and it is I would say there is very few weeks that go by that I don't speak to the ambassador, or that he's not in my office, or that we're not interchanging with him.
He's very active, isn't he?
He is very, very active. We've become friends, and I think it's so easy for me because I have formed such deep and lasting friendships and relationships with members of the government of Uzbekistan, and they've made it easy to do. Like I said, everything we have asked them to do, and it's important to recognize, to improve areas which we all need improvement, and we've worked together to both improve, I think, both nations and both governments.
So I am sure, as you mentioned just now, you hear this a lot from the Uzbek officials. They want so much from the United States. There is a lot of hope, lots of expectations from here, and you're focusing on a range of issues, right? Not just the military, as you just said, businesses and investment, human dimension, technical assistance. There is a lot that this country wants to do in Uzbekistan, but you have to have priorities. What are your priorities? What are you mainly focused on?
Well, no, the military will always be there because I have such a strong tie to both.
So security.
And then and I think regional stability, and when I say that, I include Afghanistan in that. I think that there is Uzbekistan is right in the middle of any peace process that we have with the Taliban and the government of Afghanistan, and I think they're right in the middle. I think they're such a regional leader, and so we continue. And then economically, I had peanut farmers in yesterday from all over the southeast, and we were talking about the viability of distribution point in Uzbekistan for our peanut farmers, or either sharing crops and information. So agriculture is really, really important to me with USDA to see what we can do to make Uzbekistan and the United States partner better.
So military, security, obviously, and then agriculture.
Agriculture and economic, the entire economic.
So there are many experts in Washington and elsewhere, even in Tashkent, who see this as a very transactional relationship. They think that U.S. is there in the region as a whole for just very specific things. They want to work with the country, specifically with Uzbekistan, because of Afghanistan, and the region is a route to somewhere. So they criticize the American establishment for being too pragmatic and too transactional with the region.
Well, I'd say they just have to look at me and they would know that's not true. This will be the third November in a row that I've been there. Made other trips, at least one more to Uzbekistan. Is, like I said, in the interaction day to day, the resolution recognizing their independence, Vicente Gonzalez. Do I think we're a huge government. There's 535 members of Congress, 435 in the House and 100 in the Senate. And so, some of them probably are transactional, but they've got some really good friends here on the Hill. I mean, the fact that our governor went over there and visited, he has nothing to do with national policy. He has nothing to do with Afghanistan.
Exactly.
Has very few troops,
he's
over there, and it's all economic, and it's all about what can we do to partner together to make Mississippi and Uzbekistan stronger. So I would say anybody who says it's transactional is they're seeing what they want to see and not what's really happening.
So as far as you're concerned, you're there long term. You want that kind of a relationship.
They're my friends for life.
You hosted President Mirziyoyev last year when he was here.
Yes.
You gave him a tour of
We
the
did
US,
give him a tour
capital.
and got to meet in the Lincoln Room, which was really where President Lincoln, when he was president, his little hideaway, and that's where we met with the president. Isn't that a great venue?
Yeah, we saw those spectacular pictures. You seem to trust him. You trust him, obviously. You're a Brigadier General.
Yes.
It's not easy to earn your trust.
No, it is
right?
not. No.
So what makes you look at the Uzbek government, specifically President Mirziyoyev, as a credible party, as a credible head of government?
First of all, I think we want this relationship, and I think he wants it, and I want it. And so I go back to my first visit, my first Kodal, and the president was out. I think he was in Japan maybe at the time, and his entire cabinet was with him. And so we had this large Kodal, and we couldn't change the dates. I mean, we had the dates. We have several other. So we're there for 2 or 3 days, and he couldn't get back because he had these meetings with other heads of state. He sent his entire cabinet back to me. Well, that shows commitment to making sure. And then there was a list. There were political prisoners that at the time, I think Ambassador Brownback and some of the State Department that were negotiating and all those things. There were some other things that were going on in the way cotton was picked and kids getting out of school.
Forced labor, child labor.
And we brought those up.
You discussed those issues.
Absolutely, and they were immediately fixed. Well, that says we want to do the right thing. Now, we don't move as fast in the American government, and Uzbekistan's government does not move as fast as sometimes people on the outside and peripheral would like. But here's what I do say. I've seen nothing but steady progress from the government of Uzbekistan under the president's leadership since he has taken over. And here's the other thing that I think people really need to understand. The elections this fall, this December, I've been invited. I've been asked to come. I want to observe. I don't know. Nice. It's close to our Christmas, so you know, I do have a young kid, and I have to. But I'm trying. But they have been arms wide open to the international community to say, please come in and observe our elections. They have become very, very transparent, and transparency is always good. Not perfect, but transparent always says we're not hiding anything. And so I think that's where the basis of trust, and it will be long term.
You've met the members of the Oliy Majlis of the Uzbek Parliament.
Yes.
What do you think of them?
Well, Senator Safayev is one of my really good friends, and all the members of Parliament. And we have to continue to empower them and to let them be a voice of the people. And I think the president has done very good at that. He's redistributing the power just from, he could keep all that to himself, and that's how it was in the past. And he's not. He's sharing that and spreading it out.
He's on that path?
I think so.
A lot of people doubt that it could be a permanent thing.
Well, I think so, and I think the elections, I just think he's forward-looking.
They see him as someone who's consolidating power, but perhaps eventually he may tighten the grip.
I've not seen that, so all I can say is I've seen him to do the opposite of that, to not consolidate, but to rather to trust the people to make the right decisions. And I think the elections show that. I mean, when you're inviting people in to observe the election, if you were trying to consolidate power and make sure, you would be trying to keep people out.
So if you go, it would be a bipartisan group of...
It could be. It could only be me, or it could be bipartisan. We will try to put together a group. And I know they've also looked at the international organizations to also come in and look at United Nations and other people. It's definitely more open than any election process in the past. Wouldn't you agree?
This will be a major challenge for the Uzbek political system, because everybody wants to see that the system is reforming itself, that its fundamental is improving. In its fundamentals, there is a political reform there. So I think definitely the international community, but the people of Uzbekistan want to see for themselves what can they do.
I'll just put it to you this way. Having foreign military in Uzbekistan would not have happened 4 years ago. So closed, even for a training exercise or anything else. And we're in the process on the military side, okay, through your Minister of Defense, and all this goes, the president knows what's going on. And we're trying to do a regional exercise which foreign troops come into Uzbekistan to train, to work on this is like on earthquake response and those kind of things.
The laws of Uzbekistan now do not allow the foreign troops to be based, but you can definitely go there for exercise.
To train, but even though you could in the past, it was not allowed. And so you just see the openness and the openness of the borders, which has been very improved over the last 3 or 4 years. Does that mean they're perfect? No. I mean, we have border issues here. Imagine that. But you have to work through, but you can see the improvement. You can see the openness to change and not rely on the ways of the old.
And you have met the Minister of Defense. You have talked to the security officials of Uzbekistan.
Everyone, yes. Been to your military academy. I've been several times, and there's not been a part, either business, economically, or militarily, or any part of the government, which I've not met with the ministers. Every time very open, and to meet and to discuss challenges, and have seen improvement, or either when we disagree, and that's okay too.
Do you see these opportunities as an opportunity to sort of, counter the Russian influence? Because a lot of people see Central Asia as a region of this huge, great games and competition. I know a lot of people in Washington don't see it that way, but how do you are you worried about Chinese, Russian influence, for example?
Not really. Listen, it's a three-legged stool, okay? And to be honest, 5 years ago, Russia had a real long leg. China had a small leg, and America had almost no leg.
There
in Uzbekistan. And now we're, I wouldn't say we're equal leg, but we're getting closer to equal. And I think that's important. It balances. I think that's good for Uzbekistan. I mean, they're part of the old Silk Road. I mean, they are such a country, such rich in resources, great people. They're located in an area which has influence all throughout the region. I don't think they need to be anybody's puppet. I don't think they need to be America's puppet. I don't think they need to be China's puppet. I don't think they need to be Russia's puppet. I think the Uzbekistan people are great, and we're supportive of them doing what is best for Uzbekistan, and hopefully Mississippi and the United States play a part in that. But I'm not worried about Russian influence. I'll let them worry about us. I'm not worried about Russia. They can worry about us. We're not trying to take over Uzbekistan. We want to make Uzbekistan a better place, and we want to the Uzbek people to take control of Uzbekistan.
And congratulations with the award. I was in Tashkent when they announced it.
That is
so
amazing.
I wondered, how did you learn about the award? How did they inform you?
The ambassador let me know. And it's just such an honor. And I think it cements and glues our friendship. Like I said, you can go look at anything I've done. I still maintain relationships with my police officers from when I was city prosecutor 15, 20 years ago. I have soldiers that come up and visit with me that I haven't seen in 10, 15 years. I'm in this for the long haul. I'm making friends for life. And I think you can say that all you want. The people will see that that's true. I will be very brief, but I first want to thank Minister Kamilov for presenting this on behalf of President Mirziyoyev. What an honor to be recognized in this way. The friendship and partnership between Mississippi and the United States and Uzbekistan is the most important thing that I do in the House of Representatives. And in honor of that, Vicente Gonzalez is a congressman from Texas who is the co-chair of the Uzbekistan Caucus in the United States House of Representatives. We introduced a resolution for the 28th anniversary of Uzbekistan independence, and I want to present this to you, Minister Kamilov. And it's in honor of all the progress that has been made under the current administration and all the ministers. What a great place. And if you have not been to Uzbekistan, you are missing out. There's only two places in the world that I love to leave to go to, and Washington, D.C. is not one of them. It is Uzbekistan and Mississippi. And when I'm there, I feel like I'm at home at both places. I thank you for the friendship of your great nation and our great state and our great nation. Thank you, and God bless you all. I'm just honored. That's to even be considered. To even be considered is great, and to actually get the award is great.
You just said some wonderful things about people, right? People of Uzbekistan, people of Mississippi. If someone is out there in Uzbekistan or in other parts of Central Asia who watches, sitting and wondering about, well, this congressman has a great relationship with the Uzbek government. To what extent, he cares about our issues, because the governments and people, they're two different.
Well, you got to understand, I come from a place where it's not two different things. We are the people. I represent 763,000 people, and I'm on the ballot every 2 years.
So you are the people.
I am the people, and I'm in the House of Representatives, which is the people's closest voice in America. And so I do care I see them as one. And that's what I think the president is trying to get to. That's why I think he is trying to decentralize. I think he is trying to get it closer, to get the parliament more engaged and more powerful. And so I think that's what it's about. I think a perfect government, the government and the people should be the same. And I think that's what's great about a republic, which we have. And I think that is great on these elections in Uzbekistan for the people's voice to speak.
And we'll be watching together.
Absolutely. I hope I'm able to come.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Well,
it's been wonderful.
Yes. Absolutely.
And we could go on and on and on.
We're talking about something we both love.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank
you.
Thank
you.